Hey everybody, it's Abby Glassenberg from Craft Industry Alliance. I hope you are doing well today. We are here every Wednesday for our member spotlight where we get the opportunity to drop in on a Craft Industry Alliance member and learn more about their business journey, see some samples of their work, maybe get a little peek into their studio. It is always a joy for me and I love talking to our members. Goldman from A Slice of Delight. And Hilary actually does a craft that is somewhat unusual among our membership, but is a sector that I'm really hoping to grow, which is all about soap. So, hey, Hilary, how are you?
Great. How are you?
Good. Very good to see you. Great to meet you. So tell us all about A Slice of Delight. What is it that you make and what is it that you sell? What do you specialize in?
Okay. So first of all, I'll just share a little bit about how I fell into this because I had a corporate job for 25 years, and while I was kind of reaching the end of my career, a friend of mine had given me a gift certificate to go learn how to make soap, something relaxing, something fun, something crafty, and I did, and there was a local organization, a brick and mortar shop called the Nova Studio. So she gets a little shout out there. She's still in business, but it's no longer a physical location. It's all online as things have obviously changed out there. Um, but I went to that class and then really enjoyed it and decided to keep taking classes. And then at the point in my career, I was going to gracefully leave and rest and relax and just sort of figure things out. And one of the teachers had said to me, "Oh, you're so good at this. You've got this creative talent." Well, of course, I learned from the instructors of making a soap that she said, "Why don't you go sell it?" And I was like thinking, where? Well, I had kids in primary school at that point, and primary schools always have shows or
Yeah.
fairs or things where they're trying to make money. So I said, I'll have a table. And of course, I made the soap. And at that point, I didn't know much about packaging. I didn't know much about labeling. I was learning these things, but merchandising, all these aspects that, for some people who are really grand at it, no, but this is how we all get started. And, um, and at that point, I realized, oh wow, people are buying my goods. So I was only making soap at the time, and I'll sort of backtrack a little bit. There's three types of soap crafting.
Okay.
There's what they call it cold process. Then there's hot process, and then there is what they call melt and pour. And
Okay.
it when you're done with the cold process is like taking all the ingredients yourself and mixing it and creating the soap goes through this chemical process called saponification, and then you get soap, but that usually takes 6 to 8 weeks.
Okay.
And at the time that I had kids and I like things to be a little more immediate, um, the next process is where you heat up the same ingredients, and that speeds up the process. So that's the second method. And then the third method is there's a manufacturing company that sort of I like to call it delegating, because that's what I did in my project management days when
Yeah.
I was working both in high tech and then in financial services. And I would manage a team of people who would be developing software and testing software. And so there would happen to be this other manufacturing company that makes just this melt and pour soap. So they are really speeding it up and then delivering it in a form where it's first liquid and they're pouring it into these big barrel. I'm not really a barrel, but like a 5 gallon container. So that's about 50 pounds. And that's how they're delivering it. So they haven't done anything to it. They haven't crafted it in any fun way. They haven't added fragrances. They haven't designed anything. They're just handing it over. So to a person like myself who then says, okay, I'm going to now take that final step. So
So let me ask a
that's
quick
the,
clarifying question because this is really interesting and I didn't know any of this. So my clarifying question is it more expensive to buy the melt and pour than it is to buy the cold process? And like, in other words, are they tiered in pricing as a raw material because you have to wait the longest and do the most with the first type, the cold process, a little bit less with the hot process, and then with the melt and pour, you're really not doing as much. So I'm wondering if the price point increases.
It's hard to know because I'm going to add in that because a lot of people, well, originally when you first get into it, you're going to a craft shop or you're going online and you're buying the melt and pour soap in small bricks. I
Sure.
should have pulled one out for
No,
myself,
right,
but
but you wouldn't be buying a huge amount because you're just starting out and trying it.
right. And so then by the time I got to where I was able to go direct to the manufacturer. So I was really getting like wholesale pricing. And I think that's what people are doing, whether they're buying all the separate ingredients, whether it's the shea
Sure.
butter themselves, whether it's the olive oil themselves, or the lye that they need to make it. So I'm not sure I can really answer that question in
Okay.
terms of the price point because but they do involve a lot of the same ingredients. It's just how it's getting sped up and then
Sure.
the simplicity. Yeah.
Right.
So,
Okay. Good to know. Thank you
okay.
for that
You're welcome.
background. Yeah.
So basically, I started this whole exercise, and I watched one of your other crafters. You talked about Etsy. I was started to chuckle because I was one of those people who said, "Oh, how am I going to sell this? I guess I'll have to go on Etsy." And I think I started there as well, and that, of course, platform has evolved. But there was a lot. I mean, for me, what was most interesting is because my background was software development, software delivery, I was behind the scenes with programmers and designers and developers and testers, bringing out products, and mainly in the information in financial services for people to use. So I was in the guts of these systems, and in this case, now I was a user
Right.
of the tools. So that was sort of fascinating for me. But in the midst of all that, my family and I so now I'm, graciously have left the corporate world. I'm working on this thing, and it's, I think, 2009 now. But my family and I always wanted to live abroad in a French-speaking country, and we never said where. And the funny part is my husband came home and said, well, he can make a connection to Senegal and Senegal in West Africa. And before I knew it, I had to shut everything down. So all this momentum where I was starting to figure out how to run it, how to have a business, how to be online, how to market, all these things had to be on Facebook, how to be on Twitter, Pinterest. I mean, it's overloaded. So it gets to be a lot. And now Instagram. But my family and I packed up. My kids were 9. I have twins. And we just left to live in Dakar in Senegal for a year.
Wow.
So I had to kind
And Dakar
of
is
throw that in there.
beautiful. Yeah. Yeah. Dakar is
Yeah.
beautiful. I know somebody who did a quilting retreat in Dakar and it was like incredible, the pictures that she was showing.
Well, I do have a little surprise. This is a little off topic, but because I said I like crafting and making things and stuff, while I was there, my kids went to French school. We continued our French language education and did volunteer work. I would buy fabrics in the marketplace, and then I would or if I found a tailor who would make a dress for me, sort of a Western dress, but he copied it. And when I left after a year, I said, I want all the fabric you have left over for me. And I made a quilt. So even though I know that I'm soap and everyone's quilters
That's
out there, but
totally
I just
fine.
want,
Oh, wow. That's awesome. What a beautiful memento. Oh my gosh.
so I had to make 2 of them because I have
Right.
twins. But anyway, so I get back and then I realize I got to start all over again. So of course I
Mm.
made sure I had my license. I made sure I had the seller's permit. I had to just regroup on how to get back because I did have reverse culture shock, just returning and coming back after a really incredible experience in that country. So I continued on, and then something happened on Etsy, and I realized I couldn't count on this system that I was driving people to go to buy my product, and then they're in a business too, so they're going to have their creative ways to redirect customers to, oh, hey, you thought you liked a slice of delight soap. Well, here's some other soap you might like. So
Right.
that that kind of propelled me to then have my own website,
Mhm.
and I'm using the Shopify. system to house that. And then I kept continuing, to figure out aspects of business that we all talk about, which is the pricing, the packaging, the marketing,
Yeah.
and that's of kind of what's been going on. And then at some point, though, and I'll show you a few soaps.
Yes.
We get caught up in just making and then buying fragrances and trying to figure out how to make more. And so one of my challenges is in my home here, it's a very small house, and I work in the kitchen here. And I have kind of two workspaces. Unfortunately, you can't see them. I'd have to have been turned around, and then the light would have been an issue. So my point about that is I have to be creative because I don't have a lot of space for a lot of molds, and a lot of crafters either are buying a lot of molds, creating some amazing, mainly in the melt and pour
Yeah.
kind of side of things. And so I was thinking, well, how do I be creative with a fewer molds and get creative because of my space issue? And then again, buying fragrances and just making and trying to figure out what people really like. So it's kind of been an iterative process, and at the same time deciding to not make certain things, and also then to cut down on fragrances and expand the product line a bit, which is, if somebody loves a certain fragrance and they like this one soap, why don't I start making bath bombs that go with it? And then why don't I make hand cream that goes with it? And start creating packages of gifts. So sort of back to my corporate days as a project manager, I always relied on the team of people who are developing the software and the tool, and all the time trying to give them praise for what they were doing and hit milestones and have my management give me the money to buy them gifts. And so gift giving and little things and soap and bath and body products. I mean, I'm talking about now, but my mindset about gift giving and how simple it can be. And I just really love that. And so part of being in this business gives me the message to other people of how easy and affordable a bar of soap is that could enlighten someone's day. And so that's sort of the name of A Slice of Delight. That's how it kind of came.
And you're totally right. And I feel like, I've received soap as a hostess gift, for example. I've given soap as a birthday gift. I've given soap as a gift after somebody broke up with somebody else. It's just like, it's a really lovely self-care pick-me-up. And especially if it's pretty, you can put it out, and it's like a decorative item too, and it's useful. So I agree with you. And putting together a bundle so that gift giving is really easy. I mean, it's just like one click and you've got, different price points, and you've got everything together that is going to look good together and go well together. I think it's really smart. So your background is really helpful, I feel like, in building a creative business. So show us some of your soaps, because I'm sure at this point we're all really curious.
Okay, so this one, I don't know, hopefully you guys can see it.
Yeah,
It has wrapping. I have them all wrapped at this point. And I wrap them because, well, one, it's just, I guess, for comfort of everyone touching soaps. They like to smell. I usually have smell samples when I'm at an event, but people will pick the soaps up, or they, the way I handle it, I've minimized that situation, but this is sort of a mix of different colors. This one's called Ocean Mist.
Love
And
it.
then here's this one. This was a popular one. It's called Yuzu. You can see,
Wow.
so you can get really creative with manipulating the melt and pour soap much easier.
That one reminds me of birthday candles. That one's really cheerful.
Oh, actually, speaking of that, this one is a confetti soap, and usually I sell this one super popular with birthday cake flavoring in it, or fragrance in it. And what better to than have a burst of pop of color? So it's just random cut up. So, thank you. And then my last one here is usually what I do here is it's like shredded soap. So imagine I've made blocks of soap, and then I've used a shredder to make the shreds, and then I'm putting the shreds in the mold and pouring more soap color on top of it. So I don't know if you can see that.
Totally. And we got a really lovely comment just now from Sew It Workshop, and she says, I gave handmade soaps this holiday to all my friends and family. It's wonderfully gender neutral and everyone loved them. Most successful gift ever. So that speaks really, to what you were just talking about.
Yeah. Yeah. I just feel like we can be simple and it's not complicated. And I mean, this might be kind of funny, but when I'm at shows, I tell people it lasts longer than a box of chocolates, or it
Right.
lasts longer than a glass of wine. So, for the value.
Totally.
But here's the mold I have. So
Okay.
this is an example of like I guess like a bread mold,
Yeah, it looks
and
like a
that's what I
big
have to,
Tupperware.
yeah,
Yeah.
and that's what I work with. I have a lot of those, but fewer fancy design ones, and I'm just trying to be creative in the mold itself. Again, just for space saving. My
But I
circum.
think that's really encouraging because a lot of people, they sort of wait to pursue their dreams because the space they're living in may not be ideal for it. They don't have a dedicated workspace at all, or it's too small, or they don't have the kind of sink that they would like to have, or whatever it might be. And I think that you have decided, okay, these are my constraints. And I'm going to take those and be as creative as possible. See that as a creative act. See these constraints as part of my own creative process. And I think that that's really a helpful way to think about it because the reality is very few of us are ever going to have that huge dream studio that we, have in our imagination. And most of us, if we want to pursue something like this, do need to work within the constraints that we have.
Yeah. And actually, speaking about that, I will admit that at one time I wanted to go big. I mean, I had this mindset that I would take this out of the kitchen, move it into a manufacturing space, whatever that might mean. But that was going to then require so much other commitment, financial and time. And since I am able to manage this business, it's really staying small and in my kitchen. So that's going to limit me, which I'm fine with because now I have two boys in college. They are definitely on their way at being their independent, them being, having their independence. And then my husband and I will get to travel and do other things. And so I think it's a matter of undulating my life at this point with having this business and having it flow in the mode that I'm going to be in. And like I came back from Canada up in Quebec City, and I sent an email out or a newsletter out to my customers, giving them a heads up I was going to be gone and they could order. And if they read my newsletter all the way to the end, there would be a coupon code. Some take advantage of it, some skip it. And then they seemed to be fine. I got some orders while I was away, and I set expectations so that when I came back, they would receive their orders. And I think I'm just going to work it that way. But I guess my point was I realized the complexity of things, and I had already given so much in my corporate career that I'm very proud of. And I thought, oh no, I don't want to, in this last quarter of my life, don't want to now own a retail space, and I'm going to just leverage other ways to run this business, getting more wholesale orders and other pursuits. I have to kind of figure that one out
Yeah,
still.
no, I think that that's totally great. And we got another nice comment from JJ Delash who says, thank you for sharing. Fun to hear about the process of other artists starting a business. I agree. And I do really relate to that. I think that there can be outside pressure, even from your original teacher who said, oh, you're really good at this. You should sell these. And even for some people, that is beyond what they really want to do. They may feel like, I really enjoy this and I'm good at it, but it doesn't have to actually be a business at all. And even though people around me are saying you should sell this, and that can extend in other ways, right? Like you are selling this, you are growing a business, but just because people say, wow, you're so successful this way, maybe you should get rent space and, add some employees and up production. And, yeah, you could do that, but it doesn't necessarily mean you should. And I think we have to sort of really examine what is it that we want what are our own goals for this and not allow other people's opinions of what should happen to be the driving force.
Well, I will add that with my kind of high tech career and this transition I made as not just a software developer, but a tech project manager and then a business analyst, I became sort of this person that worked between both groups, the VP product owners who had these visions and said, well, isn't it just that simple? And then the programmers. And so I did go back to graduate school to get a business degree. So I always sort of chuckle to myself because I understand these theories. I'm not saying everyone needs to go back and get a business degree, but I needed to or wanted to because of the growing nature of really all these the financial services and everything moving to the web and the whole boom and bust that's happened out here. I didn't mention where I live, but I live in Berkeley, California. So and worked in San Francisco. But I think it's just, I sort of chuckle to myself because I have to remember there is moments when you have to look at these numbers. You have to think about your income and your expense and where things are going to go. So, I mean, it is super helpful in that respect because you do want to, if you're in business, you kind of do want to make some money. So how much that
Do.
money might be is, is to be determined. But
Right.
I still feel like that was impetus for me to say, okay, I have this knowledge base and I got to run it that way. And it has really helped because a lot of having the reseller's license, so I'm able to buy things wholesale and other practicalities that I didn't realize, you get when you are formalized, with the business and these licenses that you have to pay for and insurance and things like that. So,
Totally. So at Workshop has another comment. It says, I love so much the concept of defining success for you and your own personal goals, not one size fits all. There are many roads to happiness. Yes, that is so true, for sure. So this has been great. I love getting to know you, Hilary, and learning about your business. I think everyone watching is probably very inspired right now to buy a bar of soap. So tell us where we should go to your Shopify site to do that, to take a look, to get a gift.
so it's a sliceofdelight.com. And really, I try to tell people jokingly, I don't really sell soap. I sell happiness in a bar of soap.
Wonderful. We'll end it right there. Thank you, everybody, for joining us today. See you later. Thanks, Hillary.
Bye.
Bye.